of the Managed Growth Steering Committee. Tonight is Wednesday, March 27th, 2019. I've got 6:35 p.m. I'll also take the minutes, since I've been taking the minutes. And that's okay with you?
Fine by me.
Just to keep it consistent. We just got notification that our chair, Ron, is unable to make it tonight because of an emergency. I volunteered to sit in as vice chair, if we can get a motion.
I'll make a motion. You sit as vice chair, Jeff?
Second.
Okay, the motion made and seconded. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I will serve as the vice chair for this evening and also take the minutes for the notes. Okay, so we do have a prepared agenda. First item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes for March 14th, 2019. Meeting minutes for the Managed Growth Steering Committee.
And also move.
We have a couple people that are taking
go right ahead, but
taking a
no,
look
I've
at
already,
it.
I've already read them. So.
And I guess it's obvious that we are televising, not broadcasting, but we're just recording for cable access purposes. And we thank you for that, young lady. Appreciate it.
Put on the YouTube channel.
The YouTuber.
191. Yeah, it's... Although I do have a question. Why, when you view it on YouTube, why is it so small?
It's because of the cameras in there. Hopefully when we upgrade the system relatively soon, actually, it'll get better. The quality will get better.
Okay. 'Cause I know when you watch it on TV, it doesn't come out like that. If you watch it live, it comes out the same size as my TV in the house. Even if I watch it on the YouTube channel on my TV, because it has that capability, it's just still so small.
Yeah, it's just the file format. Hopefully we'll have that fixed once everything is upgraded.
Who's paying for that?
I'm not sure. You might want to ask Paul about that.
Okay.
All right, so we've got we're waiting on we have a motion, we're waiting on a review and second to approve the minutes of our last steering committee, March 14th, 2019. Excellent. Are you familiar with it, Dave? The minutes, or are you gonna wait? You good?
I'm outside as well. I'm just...
Okay. Well, then, if you wanted to,
I need one more minute, I'm almost done.
Take your time.
there's no
Be
pressure.
thorough.
No pressure, sir. Did everybody get a copy of Dave's draft?
Yes.
Draft for
March
What we're gonna be talking about
articles?
tonight? Yes.
25th.
Yeah.
Everybody has that?
Yep.
Okay. Would you like a copy? What we're gonna be talking about tonight?
You live here in town?
I do, yes.
Ah, there you go. Be involved. Awesome.
Thank you. Oh, this is more than one time.
Yeah.
All right.
Which will be the subject of our discussion tonight. Nice job, Dave.
I appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
it
you.
is.
I mean, nice job.
Thanks.
Looked it over. Took some notes here, kind of figured out where a lot of your sources were pieced from. I think your inspiration came from the Cape, a little bit.
Well, we used the prior Rutland 2002 plus the Cape Cod Commission together.
Okay.
Because the Rutland 2002 looked a lot like that as a basis. And then from the joint committee, then the Growth Steering Committee's guidance from last time.
Yep.
And the joint meeting of the Select Board and the Planning Board, I assembled what I understood it to be consensus requirements, which I tried to work in.
Yep.
Using the other sources that we looked at previously
Yep.
from the other towns that were distributed.
Very thorough. We'll hold that thought, because we're gonna
Motion
circle back to that. So we have a motion and a second. We just wanted to give you ample opportunity, if you had, if that is your recollection of what happened at the minutes. So, okay, no discussion? Okay, all in favor to
Aye.
approve the
Aye.
minutes?
Aye.
Motion made and carried, minutes
Those are-
of March 14th approved.
Yep.
And I will,
That's Dave's.
That's
copy.
Dave's
It's Dave's
copy.
copy.
oh, okay.
Here's Dick's copy.
This copy, I learned that you have to sign it at the end, the last page, right? Respectfully submitted.
We have it on video.
and I'll post this with Damien tomorrow.
Can I get that back for my record?
Oh,
You can take the,
your copy. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
just
Yes,
for
sir.
my-
Yes, sir.
so I have to copy it out again.
Okay. All right, so a couple agenda items. We'll talk about the briefing of, so we had a very successful joint meeting, I thought. It's been streaming pretty regularly on the cable access for awareness. I like that. I also noticed that the Landmark posted a pretty accurate synopsis story of our meeting, kind of hit the highlights in there. Is there any discussion or follow-up on the 18th meeting, the joint meeting that we had? I think
Nope.
that the
I was
crux,
there.
the crux of it is to steer it
Yeah.
towards Dave and Ron, towards the draft, which we can talk about
Yeah.
this evening. Maybe we can finish up with that. Let's just get rid of these other odds and ends here. There's no further business to talk about as far as the 18th meeting. We're all good with that. We can
Yes.
move on. Any follow-up reports to discuss for us? Okay.
Not
Any,
until after we go through things.
any old business?
oh,
New business?
no,
Okay, so let's just get right into it then.
please.
So our town planner, Dave George, put together a very insightful draft dated 3/25/19. It's called the Development Limitation Bylaw 2019 Rutland. So for the minutes, Dave, give me a synopsis of what went into your product here, your 3-page draft.
Right, so
Let's go
as
forward.
mentioned previously, I'll just and reiterate. So the Growth Management Steering Committee has been at this for a little while. So based upon the last meeting, having reviewed the MDC guidance document on things that could be proposed to manage growth, as well as a sampling of such development bylaws from other towns. We use that information, we use the Cape Cod Commission model, the Rutland 2002 attempt, as well as guidance from the Joint Committee, from the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen. From that point, I developed what I had understood to be a consensus set of requirements, which became part of this document which you have before you tonight, this draft. This draft does piece together, as needed, other sections from some of the bylaws that we looked at from other towns. So now you have it before you tonight for your consideration and
Excellent.
comments.
Thank you. Any initial comments before
No, I do. On the agenda, it says to review for recommendation, review recommendation to about it, but it doesn't say recommendation to whom.
say again?
Well, are we recommending this to the Board of Selectmen from here, or is this gonna go to the bylaw subcommittee for,
Well, the bylaw subcommittee, I think, is really just kind of on the sidelines. It's going towards the planning board and the planning board zoning bylaw.
okay, so that's who this recommendation is going to.
Right, right.
Okay.
But we're also gonna have a circle back with the two boards, the two joint boards, that, as we did on the 18th,
But
in there.
to your thing, I would think that it would circle back to Ron. We'll let him go through it, you know, I mean, he's
Have
supposed to be.
Ron submit it to the,
Well,
after approval by the planning board though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Well-
we're not quite there yet. Dave, right now,
Yeah.
at this stage, Dave and Ron are jostling together, like you said, piecing it together from the different components based on the feedback of the double meeting that we had. Have you had, you probably haven't had a good opportunity to sit down with Ron and to look at best practices or his advice on the different pieces that are in here. I noticed that some of the wording is a little bit different.
Actually, he reviewed this and he didn't have any comments. He thought it looked good.
Okay.
Okay, so
That's-
when we get done with it tonight, you can, you know, let him know what some of our issues are. Okay,
Exactly, right? And then
and from there,
we'll see where the next
Okay.
step is.
Yep.
But good question. All right, I like it. So I'm gonna note that in there. So recently spoke with, or you ran this draft in it
Yeah, I
as it
sent this
is?
draft to Ron at the same time as I sent it to you folks, and he came back with, it looks good, no comments.
I'm just gonna respond to him. Apparently, since I'm sure he emailed everybody about him not being here, but I'm gonna let him know that we did get his message.
So we will carry on. Yep. Hope all is well. All right. If you don't mind, Dave, I just like to know where the source was drawn from. So we have in your draft 9 components to the draft, what you call a development limitation bylaw in there. Just kind of get some historic reference here on where the wording was based from, so that we're not reinventing a wheel or something that's going to cause a lot of legal review or time and expense of legal review to check it. If this was clearly drawn from something that's already been made, approved, and vetted, I think it moves things forward. So my first question, so if you don't mind, can we just go from top to bottom?
Take it away.
Okay, so the language of it, calling it the development limitation bylaw, was that drawn from any place?
That's in particular from, I've seen this in other ones that we've looked at. This is also from the Cape Cod Commission. They call it Model Development Rate Limitation Bylaw. So development limitation bylaw is similar in tone.
Right from the Cape Cod.
The rate of development bylaw is Sterling. Phasing up, well, what is that one? I think you'll see that it's not uncommon language.
Yep.
To title it that way.
Straight up, right?
If I may, would at least put in something that this is residential development,
Well, he's got that in there.
just from the get-go,
It's number 3.
residential development limitation bylaw.
That's number 3.
Yeah,
But you talk, okay, so this is just on the article, the title of the article, residential development limitation?
inside of the,
Well, I mean,
but that's gonna be the name of the bylaw itself though, right?
that's what we can talk about. I've seen it, the Douglas one called it planned development. The last go-around was a managed growth, I believe, the 2002 attempt.
They called that a development rate limitation in 2002. This is the town's 2002 attempt.
Okay.
I amended, call it rate of development.
So that we don't alter too drastically, keeping in mind the wishes of the 2 boards at the last meeting. Mr. Anderson, he wanted it well written. I think if we
Douglas, yeah, okay.
stay as close to the script as possible, it might make our future meetings smoother. So, I mean, I'm okay with the way it says that, development
Okay.
limitation, because he's basing it on the Cape Cod,
Well,
Sterling.
I mean, there's some other, once we get to these other parts of it, I'll continue, but I'm okay with it.
But the question is, do you want the word residential in there?
But if it's implied later, but
I think
you
it
know,
is.
when writing a bylaw,
Okay.
it has to be written and not just implied. So I just wanted,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other comments on the naming of it?
No,
Okay, so section 1, purpose and intent.
I would like to have a better understanding of process, though. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
So, so where does this go? Once this group has decided, it goes into planning?
Well, I think it's gonna go back to Dave and Ron, right?
I can answer the process. I was gonna hold the process questions till later, but since we're talking about it
Go ahead.
now. After this board reviews it, if there's any comments that this board would like to make, we're then gonna re-edit and have a working document that we would then submit to the planning board's bylaw subcommittee for an anticipated meeting on April 1st, with another meeting on April 9th as needed. After that, if there's some need for a joint meeting with the board of selectmen and the planning board, I would defer to Jeff on when to structure that. We do anticipate having a hearing on this on April 23rd.
Okay, so
And
just
then it's put to a vote?
planning, you say we.
Well, it doesn't
it's
go,
planning
it goes
board.
for a
The planning board will be
Or-
making a recommendation.
recommendation, we
At
won't
the
vote
town
on
meeting.
it.
At the town meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the Board of Selectmen will do the voting, whether they wanna send it on to the AG. Okay, that's the process of it, right?
That's
What
after
happens-
town meeting,
That's
right?
after town meeting?
At the town meeting, yep, I mean, the Board of Selectmen will, they vote to put it on the
The warrant.
warrant agenda, yeah, and then whatever the town votes, it goes off.
Well, can't the planning board also put something on the warrant?
Sure.
Or recommend, yeah.
So, I mean,
a
it's not-
recommendation, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not,
No,
Yeah.
and this will be advertised on the warrant by the deadline of April 5th. So we're expecting a hearing date before the planning board on,
what's the April 5th deadline?
April 5th is the town warrant deadline, the deadline to submit any warrants, or warrant articles.
I thought it was-
Well, but I believe the select board, the warrant closes, you're saying.
Warrant
Yeah.
closes.
But we can, as the select board, can put it on right up into
that's correct.
real close, yeah. So that's not a hard deadline. Yeah. I don't know if that applies for planning board. Does it close for the planning board? So,
Well, we
but
expect-
anyways, okay, so
We should-
we'll
we
just
should
use
be
those.
making it. We should be making it.
We will have language for a warrant article by
Yeah.
the deadline of April 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we just move on. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds proper, right? So, just so I get this right for the minutes here. So
And I have
on
one
the,
other question on process before.
let me just recap the process here. So we'll re-edit for tonight. And then from there, Dave, you're gonna take it right to, back to planning,
Through its bylaw subcommittee,
to the
Yeah.
planning, zoning, bylaw subcommittee,
Yes.
correct.
right?
With an anticipated meeting of April 1st and a follow-up meeting on April 9th as needed.
Okay, so you're gonna do so on April 1st. Okay, to try to get it all properly written and submitted by April 5th.
And then the bylaw subcommittee submits it to the planning board, and then the planning board decides whether to give its recommendation to Board of Select.
Correct.
Civics 101.
Okay,
That's why the 9th, April 9th is the planning board meeting night.
okay, and then you're gonna have a meeting on, so April 9th, you'll know.
Yeah.
Planning board.
You still look confused.
No, I got it all. I just wanna make sure I understand the process.
Yeah, it's,
Well, it's not like we do this every year.
no.
Oh, yeah, we wanna do it right, okay.
There is due process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I'm just,
Then April 23rd,
so it's safe to say
It'll be the
that
public hearing.
Public hearing.
the
the
public
hearing
hearing.
Yeah.
is when you'll hear from developers and,
Yeah. Well, yeah, the public, a developer could come in at any time and discuss, because these meetings are all
oh,
open to
open,
the public.
of course.
But during the hearing is when we'll get the general consensus of hopefully a group of public. That's what you want. You hope people would show up to this. 'Cause
Sure.
It's gonna be announced. And,
You got a good showing at when you had Ron do the presentation. You got quite a lot
yeah,
of people.
I think we did.
Well, when you have the cable streaming it in there, it gets shown over and over, and a lot of people pick it up through that too, and the YouTube. Okay, so notification for posting, Dave, is that something that you would handle for the public hearing
Yes,
notice, and then the planning board meeting, obviously?
correct.
Is there anything else that we need to make sure that it is publicly noted and posted?
Not unless you decide that there's a reason to have a joint meeting between the select board and the planning board again.
Well, I think we agreed that we would kind of reconvene at some point in there, right? That we were gonna have some sort of
I think it
a,
was, just a brief update.
if nothing, or maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's and during that time, maybe that's when the planning board could give their verbal recommendation.
Or we could just send it to the select board
Select board.
and let them review it themselves and.
Not
give
to
it back.
rejoin.
Or we
It's
could,
one or the other.
we could ask for some reps to go to your April
Yeah.
9th meeting,
Yeah.
post it as an agenda, just in case we have a quorum.
Yeah.
Whatever, what do you prefer? I don't wanna,
Whatever
I
works.
kinda like that, you stop making any more meetings than
Right?
you
Yeah,
have to.
I
Right?
think that's a good idea.
okay, so I'm gonna go back to, see if we can get some BOS to attend the April 9th. Well, you guys will do your business, and then we'll be there to serve as the circle back. Okay, and so we need to post, that'll be on us, we need to post a possible agenda for April 9th. For the Board of Selectmen. What night is that, Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, does that answer your question, Joe?
Yes, and I think it's good to do it all out in the manner with which you've done it.
That's, okay, well, that's inspiring. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, so, section 1, purpose and intent. Your inspiration was drawn from on that?
Purpose and intent
Is
is,
that a Cape Codder?
this is the 2002.
2002?
Which actually is very much like the Cape Cod, so it's also consistent with the other purpose sections and the other examples that we have, which
So-
have been reviewed by the respective communities.
So we'll just go with the primary. The primary inference for this, for the wording was from the 2002 draft. Not the draft, but it was what was approved, right?
Was the article.
The article, yes.
Because the one that we did have that was dated in 2001 did say draft, right? So I want to make sure that I'm not quoting something that was changed leading right up to it. You know what I'm saying?
That's right, it's the one that says discussion draft only. This was printed 1/29/2002. This is the one that was distributed to the board previously. It's what's known as the
Yes,
2002
that.
version. This is known as the 2002 version.
Okay,
for
and that
purposes
was
of
what went
discussion.
forward, right? Even though it says draft on the side. I
That's
just
my
wanna make sure.
understanding. We're not able to
Okay.
find the final product, but I believe this is what
Okay.
went through at the time.
All right, very good. Any discussion on the first section, purpose and intent?
No, I think.
Taken right from our own words, okay. Applicability.
Actually, before you go on, Jeff, would anybody like to add any more references, which I underlined, as an action item for this group, if they wanted to add more information to that?
No, I saw that, and then I was looking at the Cape Cod one, that it had something similar, that I figured that's what you were kind of just,
Okay. So these references are sufficient for this purpose?
I'm not familiar with the New England School Development Council enrollment data. I figured that's your,
That was distributed from the superintendent of schools. It has student projections for the next several years.
oh, yeah?
Yeah, it went to the town administrator also. I think it's part of the budget discussions with the schools in the town.
I will, on that, I'll defer to you as the expert in the room. If it looks good to you, looks good to Ron,
All right, fair enough.
I'm okay right now.
I'm all set.
Anybody else discussion on that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay, section applicability. Bylaw
We,
applies to the issuance of building permits for all new residential dwelling units. There's your term.
Might I make a suggestion?
One sentence. Go ahead.
Applies to, this bylaw applies to the issuance of, only, have put the words only in there, only, new residential dwelling. Just to be specific.
Where's the source on number 2, Dave? Is that
Number
also
2 was the
2002?
2002 attempt. It says
What's-
this
what's that read?
bylaw applies to the issuance of building permits for all new residential dwelling units.
Is that being redundant, what I was saying, or?
I don't think there's ambiguity in terms of the purpose of this. I don't
Okay.
think there's any way to read this otherwise, in my
Okay.
If we
opinion.
can stick to what they had, we know we've got,
I don't wanna
Norm
repeat
Anderson's
I don't wanna,
blessing,
like,
you know?
repeat myself in the wording,
Yeah.
but.
It's also Cape Cod too. This bylaw applies to the issuance of building permits for all new residential dwelling units.
Yeah,
Perfect.
but the word only is in that one though, right?
No,
Oh.
this bylaw applies to the issuance of building permits for all new residential dwelling units.
Okay,
I like consistent wording to what
sure.
we've discussed. We have to take what we've discussed in the joint meeting to here too, and the wishes of the members, so. Okay,
All set.
moving on, number 3, residential development limitation. Now, is that worded differently than what I saw on some other things? Is that a,
It's maybe worded
word?
slightly different than some, but I think I'm getting this from the town's prior attempt as well as Cape Cod. What I added was the accept clause for the partial calendar year. I didn't see that accept clause in any of these other documents.
what sentence?
So the building commissioner shall issue permits for construction of new residential dwelling units only if such permit issuance will not result in authorizing construction of a total of more than X dwelling units in a single calendar year, except that if enacted after the start of the calendar year, the total eligible permits, etc. So what do you do if it starts in the middle of a year? So you have your case for the full calendar year, and then you have your case for the partial calendar year, to make it plain that all total permits could not be issued in a partial calendar year, whatever that limit is.
Okay, I mean, But the wording is from both.
It is from both.
There's nothing in here that's newly created
That is correct.
wording, okay.
And
that's
further, it's also consistent with other versions from other communities that we looked at that set forth how they want to handle it.
Okay, so number 3 is our, the big number that we batted back and forth, right?
Correct.
I threw out 12 to 15. Norman was 35.
30.
Tim was
W-
30.
w-
Okay,
yeah.
so that's the number, that's the big blank right there.
Yes.
We can go back and forth on a consensus of what we would like to see to pop in there when it goes back to the zoning bylaw. I guess now would be the time, because this is the exact section, on our feelings on the number of permits, right? Anybody want to start a discussion on
Well,
that?
the amount that was, the average is what, 67, something like that, in the 60s per year?
61 per year.
Yeah.
61
The
per year.
last 10 years was 38, the last 5 years was 43.
Yeah.
If you looked at the last 10 years and you wanted to do a meaningful reduction of half, the number would be 19,
Yeah, okay.
which is, that's one way to articulate it. 61% is since 97,
Yeah.
or whatever, you have to look at the minutes there, but I think it was 97.
So to go from 60 to 30s, half,
But I'd say that there were years where it was way in the 70s. So 61 and a half is not the high.
It's all dependent on
Not the high.
what
How
do
you
you call
want
it?
to figure it?
I don't know if
Well,
this
no, the
information.
boom, if there's a
Yeah.
whatever, it's all depends on how good the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Economy?
Economy, there it is, how good the economy is, really. But,
I don't mean to interrupt, I apologize.
No.
I don't know if this will help. This was phase 1 study. And what we have here is a graph from 1990 up to 2016. And this shows the permits issued by the town throughout that time. So this is the data that was collected from CMRPC. I also have the permit numbers for 17 and 18 that aren't shown on that graph.
So the spike was, thank you, this is fantastic. Probably should have been something I could have had at the last meeting. But anyway, the significant spike is 2008, as we knew, just before the recession. 133 permits. 133 were banged out that year.
it's,
Like playing cards.
it's
Whipping them out like playing
booming the
cards.
economy.
Oh,
Houses.
boy. And then 89, 97, 100. So 61 is the median. But, I mean, there was some serious high numbers. So what number do we want to try to manage this spike? Anybody have any feelings one way or
Well,
another? We have
Just
to,
to let you know that, I don't know if we voted it or not in planning board, but it was
last night, yeah.
30.
okay, well,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
So the planning board, at your last meeting?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay. And that was a consensus or
Yes.
unanimous or what?
yes,
yeah, which was last night.
yes.
Oh, yeah? So
Yes.
326?
Do you know what the surrounding towns are in this study?
The surrounding towns are what they call the Rural 11 region. That was based upon a study by the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission. It's the north, not the North Quabbin, it's North Worcester County.
Okay.
Maybe Dick can help me with that.
Yeah, you're doing fine. And it was unbelievable where they were down here, and here we were.
Well, I just
here.
want to know what the names of the towns were, that's all.
Oh,
Well, that's it. Well, Barry,
yeah.
right? Oakland.
Yeah, it's Barry, Princeton,
Yeah.
What are they at?
Ocam.
What's Barry at?
We don't have, what we have is an average
Yeah.
So
issuance
this
of
is the median of
permits.
several towns
Correct.
in the area, and I was asking, they call it surrounding towns, and I was just wondering what the surrounding towns were,
Hmm.
so that I had a good benchmark, that's all.
Hopefully it's our surrounding towns?
That was my question.
It
That's
is.
what I was-
It's the Rural 11,
Roll up, yeah.
which are the towns
The
adjacent to.
communities in the subgroup are Rutland, Berry, Brookfield, Ocam, Hardwick, Warren, West Brookfield, East Brookfield, New Braintree, North Brookfield, and Princeton.
Correct.
There you go.
Well, let's take a look at the numbers again here.
Okay, the project team compared data for other towns in the rural 11 region. in the 2012 CMRPC brought. Okay.
What's the median number of the rural 11 towns?
Probably 5 or,
Yeah, I mean, as you see on there, it's like 3 to 5. It's
3
the
to
lower
5.
number down there.
And we still want to give out 30 a year? What's-
Oh,
Well, I think the consensus last night, if I may.
Let's keep it all together.
Dick, since I'm here, since I am on the planning board, but I'm here representing Conservation Commission, so if I may speak.
you
for the
may.
planning board. To go that low would almost put a stop to it. As this is, we're naming this a management to take a smaller chunk out first than to completely either cut it in half or cut it 75%.
Let me read you some numbers from the next graph. This one here. Regional permits, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, 2015. Rutland 30, Barry 9,
Sorry.
Brookfield 4, Ocam 4, Hardwick 4, Warren 3, West Brookfield 3, East Brookfield, New Braintree, North Brookfield, and Princeton 0.
Yep.
This graph is very telling on this one too.
Oh, yeah.
Love the graphs.
Okay, does anybody have any, I know you guys are here as your subject advisors.
That's all we're here for, sorry.
That's okay, so we'll just talk to this side of the room a little bit. What is your, although you're both there, do you guys concur with the number 30? Or do you
Personally, I do. I do.
you think
because,
that's fair?
Yes.
30 to 40. I thought it was fair, but I'm willing to go 30.
Yeah.
Our advisors, what do you think? I mean, you're the planner, what does 30 do to our planning in the next 7 years?
That's a very big question. I'm not sure I'm able to answer that at
Yeah,
this
it's
point.
pretty good.
I mean, that's a. Let me just add a couple of numbers here. What's not on this graph from CMRPC is 2017 and 2018. So 2017, building permits issued.
Hit that door, Sean.
I don't know. Are we legally allowed to? I mean, you're just shutting doors.
Close it,
I
you don't have to shut it, but close it so they
I could
can.
ask them to close their door.
So to complete the rest of the chart, in 2017, 51 building permits for new dwelling units were issued. So you had, what, 53 from the prior year? So you had, so 51 for the next year,
That was in 2017?
2017. This stops at 2016. And then 2018, 56 building permits for new dwelling units. So if you're looking to look at the graph
Carry it out.
carried out, you see that we're going from 30 to 55 to 51 to 56 after this drop of 30. So what I would tell the board is that I did a very crude back of the envelope to try to graph the numbers and to try to run a straight line through it to see what the best line could be. That line appeared to be 40. That's a very crude regression on this.
Okay.
I'm asking Ron to verify that or validate that.
And so, and what would you call that, your analysis of what?
It's just a crude regression analysis. It's just you try to put a straight line and get the best straight line fit for the data, and that the line fell between all the data points.
We call them a trend line.
Trend line, thank you.
Trend line, there you go. Okay.
Most spreadsheets can do it for you.
All right.
In school, we had to do
So,
it.
yeah, you guys. Good terms, okay. All right,
From the
so,
position of Public Works, do you have any ideas what kind of resources? It's a very variable question. If it's subdivisions, it's more road, it's more curb, it's more that kind of thing to take care of. If it's in the water sewer area, it's obviously critical to us because there's the moratorium at this time.
Yep.
And we haven't really,
it's a separate process.
yeah, we're not
Separate
there
issue.
yet.
Nope,
We're simply not there yet. If it's 30 to 40 housing units on existing parcels or on existing roadways,
yeah.
that's a different conversation.
I can answer that. I think I would say that most of the new building permits for new dwelling units would be in subdivisions where the roads have not been accepted yet, with some number happening through the A&Rs. But most of them are tied to projects that have already been permitted.
Okay.
I can't give you an exact breakdown percentage-wise. Maybe you, Dick and Sean can, you see the subdivisions and the A&R load
Yeah.
that the town.
So, does anyone wanna Go ahead. You have more?
No, I'm,
And that begs the question, what would you do with, pre-approved stuff? How would that be managed?
Well, that would continue, cause
Yeah.
this bylaw wouldn't be
This is all,
retroactive.
this is, this is new.
All new, and then I'm thinking, it says right up at the front, in the first line of purpose and intent, permits for new construction.
period.
So,
Regardless if it's subdivision has been okayed by the planning board, but it's strictly number of building permits.
Cause there's been a lot of building permits that have already been submitted where construction hasn't started yet,
Yeah.
but that's just semantics.
And,
It's
well-
the issue, this bylaw won't stop that construction. But the issuing of new building permits for a new subdivision.
New.
Yeah.
I actually really bring it up for the watching public.
No, yeah,
Well-
it's a good point because it states that this won't be retroactive, so it
Right.
goes from this point on. Maybe this is something we should have done a long time ago. Because
It's
there
not
are
gonna
so
reverse,
many,
it's not
but
gonna reverse.
it's not going to reverse
No,
anything.
it's just, it's action right now.
This is a hope just to limit future.
And it's also among some of the other viable options that have been outlined that we're going to do right now. We're just concentrating because of the upcoming town meeting on this one. But there are other things that we will move
Yeah.
forward with this committee.
Because the economy, we could do
It's variable.
40, we could do
Yeah.
40, but there could be a boom in the economy where everybody's got some good money and they want to go out and buy a house. Those could go up fast, or they couldn't maybe not. Depending, it could be a crash. I don't want to foresee anything, but it's
The other thing is,
it's unpredictable.
do we know if the building inspector is getting any, a lot of permits, asked for permits right now? Are they trying to jump ahead before this comes into effect?
I don't think they know.
Well, they know, but do they, can they grab them because there are already,
There's no limit right now on non-brown permits.
there's no limit, and they can get out there and purchase and get building permits cranking up left and right
Just
before
let the
this
cat out
thing
of the
gets.
bag now. It's been recorded.
Well,
they sure do now.
They know it already.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
A little further on, I'll bring up a situation what I think,
But
but
We need to talk to the building inspector. I think, I
It's-
wish Mike was here.
for all intentions, we're writing this for good intentions. And it pretty much what it states. So it says that the President Infrastructure and Services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the amount of growth that we've been having, the projected growth, will be detrimental to the impacts of this town. And we're trying to limit it. We're trying to limit that, not stop it,
yeah.
Yep.
but limit it.
So I think that, so what is before us, the steering committee on section 3 right now is a concurrence of what the planning board's recommended of 30,
30.
further discussion of 30, a opposition to that number. After, you have a set of paragraphs, Dave, after the dwelling units. So of not more than blank dwelling units.
You want to do a certain amount quarterly?
What's the purpose of the little parentheses here?
What I'm looking for is to get the number in words and the number as a number, both numerical and in text. So if you tell me it's going to be 60, I'm going to write 60. I'm going to spell 60 dwelling units, and then the number 60 in parentheses, so it's clear what's going on with that.
Okay. So I think
Well, just for legal purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's fine.
for that
I usually
one
see it
person.
right after you spell out the word, and then okay.
Oh, I can do that. Thank you. That's fine.
No, I mean no, that's fine. I just didn't know if there was something else that had to go in. So would it be proper to entertain a motion of the
The amount?
specific amount, recommendation of the steering committee for number 3?
I'll make a motion to accept 40 dwelling units to be.
40?
No, I'm sorry. 30.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, 40 was a different number that was thrown out.
Yeah.
But 30 though. Yeah.
30.
So total construction of a total of more than 30 dwelling units. But what's the other parentheses for?
It's written
I just
versus.
asked.
Oh, okay. I'm
Like,
sorry.
what's going on?
Yeah.
You screwed us up by putting it later in the sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll fix that, thank you, that's a
No
minor.
problem.
Sure,
And I'll
sure.
second.
So
All right, so-
30, that's
all
my
right.
motion, 30.
Okay, hold on a second. All right, so we do have a motion by Mr. Moore recommending the steering committee support 30 dwelling units in a single calendar year, as is written in section 3.
Correct.
Second by Mr. Williams.
Yep.
Any discussion? Where'd Joe go? He quit?
No, you gotta step up.
You push him over the limit already? He
You
only
must
been here
have.
a month. You all done, Joe?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No worries. So,
The question was when we're gonna start sweeping streets. The memo hasn't gone out yet, but probably 2 or 3 weeks. Because it's still freezing at night.
Yeah.
You may have to lay more salt or sand down.
That's the
No.
whole thing, and,
Yeah.
and I kind of,
And they're talking rain coming up here pretty soon. That could
Nah.
freeze. Boom. We get
It's too
Get-
early.
We're in
Too
New
early.
England.
too
Yeah, we can get a foot of snow.
I plowed snow on Easter
It's
Sunday
happened.
before.
Yes.
Thanksgiving, Easter Sunday, Thanksgiving,
To get back,
Christmas.
where's my little gavel here? I'm about ready
Okay.
here.
Sure,
All right,
to get
go
back.
ahead.
There you
mind.
go.
All
No,
Get
so
back
Joe, I
to-
just want to make sure we're clear. So we're talking about section 3 on here,
Yes, sir.
whether to support the planning board or the steering committee supports the planning board's suggestion of the number 30 dwelling units, the limit on the building permits, 30 dwelling unit permits in a single calendar year. It's a motion made, the second. Any discussion or input from our experts here? Under number 30.
I think we've advised that the number goes on beyond what you see here.
Yep.
And that you could, there was you put a line for 40,
And the trend is there.
the trend is
you
there, so forth and so on,
articulated
yeah.
that. Okay, anything from you, Joe? You get the face here.
No.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 1.
One.
Myself. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I am. But I do appreciate. I just think it should be lower.
Okay.
I think if we're right now we're at 38. I mean, we're only knocking it down. We're at 43. You're only knocking it down 13 permits. I think it should be meaningful. 50% of what we're at in the last 5-year norm. I think we're at 19. Respectfully disagree. Opposed.
Okay.
I appreciate the process of coming up with that number. So that's all. Thank you. Any more discussion on section 3?
Nope.
Okay, we're going to section 4, the issuance of the building permits. Dave, the source for that section 4, issuance of building permits.
Issuance of building permits, once again, I think what we did in 2002 for the town and also the Cape Cod Commission with the general approach on the other ones that we sampled.
All right, so building inspector shall issue building permits in accordance with the following. Application shall be dated, time-stamped upon receipt by the building department. Applications deemed to be complete by the building commissioner shall be issued first in time basis, subject to section B. Yeah, that's pasted from 2002. I'm okay, I guess.
I'm okay with A.
That's.
Shall be issued on a first in time basis. Is that how it's worded? Should have my 2002 word in here.
That I'm getting from Cape Cod. Permit shall be issued on a first in time basis, yeah.
Does
I
that
think-
mean first come, first serve?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay, now you're asking for a number here. Within any calendar month, no more than blank percent of the total number of building permits allowed in section 3 above shall be issued. Within any calendar month. So, assuming that we've agreed or concurred with the 30, what percent? So the
2.5.
calendar here.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I
2.5
was just
per
wondering
month.
if we should
2 to 3.
amend that number to just be an even quarter for a quarterly,
No,
so many per quarter.
you guys already voted on the planning board here.
It's
I'm
all
gonna
right.
second guess
It's
some.
2.5, I believe,
So 2.5% of the total number of building permits
per month.
per month. 2.5 times 12 equals 30. Good job, sir. So therefore, 2.5 based on straight math, right? Just prorated 1/12. 1/12 of whatever. And again, with the little parentheses there, Dave, kind of
Yeah.
confuses me, but that's good. Unused allotments are to be carried forward for issuance in the subsequent month until the permits authorized by Section 3 have been issued. This is all from 2002.
We on C now?
No,
B.
B, the
Still B.
second sentence of B.
No unused, right, okay, no unused.
Unused allotments are to be carried forward.
Unused permit allotments are to be carried forward for issuance in the subsequent month
Well,
until.
it sounds like 22, but. If you know, if you don't, it's,
Cape Cod again, no unused building permit shall be carried forward from one calendar year to the next.
no unused permit shall be carried. All right, and again with the percentage, no more than blank percent of the building, any problems with B?
No.
Anybody?
No.
No more than blank percent of the building permits authorized section 3 for new dwelling units shall be issued to any one applicant or set of applicants involving one or more of the same principals within a single year. So this kind of, I guess, answers my question on the Mendon section. The Mendon bylaw had a specific section in there on procedures, said no more than blank building permit shall be issued to any individual or entity. Right? Is that what we're?
And Mendon's a good example of it. I think I saw it in a couple of other ones.
So this is kind of
It's
getting
in,
to that.
correct. It's also in the spirit of what I had understood to be a limit that could be issued to one applicant, which I got from the joint meeting as well.
Any recommendations on that, or any discussion on that from planning? Did you guys talk about that number?
No.
No, but I recommend it.
What do you recommend?
Well, just, because it limits the amount, like a monopoly then, right? Is that what it's
That's
supposed to
right.
stop?
That's
So,
right.
and I think that's
Yep.
fair.
So what number?
Well,
I mean, 10%.
1 unit. I put down 1 unit.
yeah,
Once again,
if it's 2 per month,
if I get a little antsy, one applicant or a set of applicants involved in one or more of the same principles. Does that mean that a developer can come in and then his wife and then his uncle?
Well, that's what they're getting at. So no, this is not my wife. It's just, and that's what the Mendon one said here. It's just, hey, let me tell you what this means here. Principal, officer, trustee, fiduciary, shareholder, or beneficiary shall be considered the same entity. And, the building commissioner can see right through. Obviously, if it's in the same subdivision. So what percent is the limitation of the monopoly control? That, well, obviously the planning board didn't have any position on it.
No, it did not.
Town planner or director, is there any input on that, feeling one way or another on the percentage?
Well, in the Mendon one, going back to that for a second,
They had 7, but,
they had 7.
but they were in like in the 50s, I think, on their
Yeah.
on their limit.
Beginning on May 12, 2006, for not more than 39 new residential units in each of the 5 full 12-month periods.
Mendon was 39, you say?
Yeah, I mean, take a look at C there, for their total number.
Okay, so Mendon was 39, up a little bit, and then they had 7 building permits, so that would put us at maybe 5. Just trying to have a rationale for everything that we put forward in here for challenge down there. And the rationale is based on best practice of Mendon, prorating 5. Anybody, no more than, well, you're asking for a percent, not so much a, So, if my math is right, it would be 16%.
Before you, sorry to interrupt, before you go, this is the Rutland 2002. What they did here was cap on individual applicants. At that time, they did, should any one applicant request building permits for greater than 25% of the annual cap.
Okay.
So they did 25. You had, what, 16 for Mendon?
No, for us, I was doing whatever, 5, if we were to limit to like 5 of 30, takes us to about 16%.
16%, okay.
But I didn't realize that there was previously used wordage in the 2002. I'm fine with sticking with that too. But
Read it. Could you read that again?
Yeah, so 2002, the town's prior attempt. Section 5.5, cap on individual applicants. So should any one applicant request building permits for greater than 25% of the annual cap stated in section 3 above, building permits will be issued only for the first 15 units initially. And then it goes on from there. I mean, this is a little bit more, I think, involved language than what hopefully we have here, which is hopefully, you know, more plain and to the point, but.
so you gave an arbitrary number of 15 and then 25%. So, which makes sense. We only have 4 builders or 3 builders, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
whatever. I'm happy to be consistent with what had been discussed back then, and then the will of the 2 boards saying they would like to stick to
Do you
the
think there's any wisdom in reserving a percentage for the individual builder or the individual person?
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do that.
Well, there are exemptions that fall in section 5 that pertain to individual builders. People doing just an A&R project.
So they're protected? The person who comes to town, buys a lot, hires a builder from, I
well,
don't know.
that's
Are they protected?
yeah. I mean, that's in there.
That's in the next section.
There
This
goes
is,
the-
this is yeah. These are subdivisions really.
Well,
25% is what we've had in 2002. 16% based on the Mendon, if we were to rate it based on what we liked of their 16.6%.
I don't recall if there was anything else from any of these other towns that had some kind of a rate like that.
Let's see what Douglas had something in there. But oh, all right. I would just go with
yeah.
what we did in 2002, and then
I
discussion of the 2 boards is stick to the text, the script as close as we can. 25% because it's because it's wording from 2002.
sounds good.
Maybe we should motion because it's we're putting forward a recommendation. A motion on
So moved. And 25%.
regarding section 4, draft of section 4, paragraph
C.
C on the percentage of building permits authorized for new dwelling units shall be issued to any one applicant or set of applicants involving one or more of the same principles. We're setting that at 25%, consistent with the 2002
I'll second
attempt.
that.
2002 article. Okay, you guys,
Okay.
subject matter experts, any discussion?
I'm just trying to make sure that 5 covers what I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry.
We're actually on 4, section C right now.
No, I
He's
understand.
looking ahead.
You want to see if that, okay.
Following shall be exempt from provisions of this bylaw. Units exempted under B, C, and E below. Counted towards the permit total established in 3.
Yeah, shall nevertheless be counted toward the permit total.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're talking about number C here. Motion made, seconded, to put forward recommendation 25% as seen in the 2002 wording. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Move forward.
We don't have to call and abstain, you just assume we don't vote, correct?
Right.
Thank you.
So on these things, Dave.
Substantive matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So things that are going forward back to zoning, David, are you taking notes to forward those numbers, like the 30 and the 25% on the
Yep.
monopoly? You'll be handling that?
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna revise this draft, I'm gonna put the
Okay.
numbers in, I'm gonna move the parenthesis.
Yeah.
If there's any other changes, I'm gonna make those,
Okay,
and then submit that to the bylaw subcommittee for the planning board.
sounds good to me. Okay, great. All right, can we move on to number 5, exemptions? The source again?
Several sources in this case. This is very common. It appears throughout the
Nice.
ones that we sampled from the various towns. It shows up in 2002, and it shows up in the Cape Cod.
Great.
It shows up in the Cape Cod. So it shows up pretty consistently. I think there's the fairness and equity part, you know, so as not to limit small developers and other things like affordable housing. So this is pretty standard, I think.
Okay. Following shall be exempt. These are exemptions from the provisions of the bylaw. Units exempted under B, C, and E below shall nevertheless be counted towards the permit established in 3. They shall be counted towards the permit, right? Okay, so all right.
Yeah.
All right, good. A, dwelling units to be built under the Commonwealth program or statute categorizing low and moderate income housing, otherwise defined as affordable housing. Provided that such housing units have deed restrictions to ensure that they remain affordable for no less than the time period specified by the program or statute. That's canned language for moderate or low income housing, right? Okay, B. Dwelling units that are age restricted, this is 55 or older, to resident owners 55 or older, up to a total of blank units per year. Building permit requests for more than blank units per year shall be subject to the provisions of this bylaw. So I put a note in here, not discussed, that I don't recall that we discussed a limit on the 55 or over. Was there any discussion by planning
No, that's
on
what I
that?
know of.
Nothing?
No.
Dave, your thoughts?
It's common language to have a limit put there. For example, 2002, dwelling units that are age restricted to resident owners 55 years and older, up to a total of 20 units per year. Building permit requests for more than 20 units per year shall be subject to the provisions of this article.
Where's that from?
This is the Rutland 2002.
Okay,
So they had they limited it.
okay.
I think some of these other bylaws limit it as well.
Then maybe we just be consistent then. 2002 said 20, 55 and older. And that 20 goes towards the 30 cap, is what it's saying here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that, I don't recall being discussed, but I like it if you pull that from 2002.
I did, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so any discussion on up or down on the 20 units per year? Copy in 2002?
I don't mind copying it. I just,
Too low, too high?
I don't know. I have to see it go through. Let's let it go through. I mean, this whole thing can be changed with another town vote, if needed. I'll stick with the 20.
20, 20,
Yeah, I
20,
agree.
and then, gents, you okay with that?
Well, the only thing about the 20, the total cap was 60 at that time.
Yeah.
Right now the cap is 30 as proposed, so
Okay,
you
then,
want to make it proportional.
I think we do.
Well,
I think
then
we
we
do.
should drop it down to what? 10, 15, 12?
It would be 10, it would be 10.
Yeah, I would say.
So it's 2002, 20 permits based on a 60 cap. Takes us prorated to
Okay.
10.
If I may, my reasoning that a cap doesn't need to be on for 55, even though of course, no children are coming, they still, require services through police, they still impact the infrastructure, roads and stuff and everything that this is trying to limit.
But it also includes low-income housing, and 10 or 20 low-income housings do come with kids.
Yeah, well,
$12,000 a kid. And there you go. So, I like the idea of 10, because it's prorated from the 2002 wording.
Then I'll make a motion that we set it 10 units per year.
On,
And
on
B,
section 5,
yeah,
paragraph
B.
B, 10, 55 and older units per year. Motion made.
I'll
Solely
second.
you, Sean.
So
One
moved.
more seconded, okay. Discussion from our experts,
Nope.
and then all in favor on that?
Aye.
Unanimous. So Dave, bring back unanimous, 10 units per year, 55 and older, section part. Building permit requests for more than blank units per year shall be subject to the provisions of this bylaw. Building permit requests for more than blank units per year.
Which I believe would be the same number that you just placed.
I believe it would.
Yep.
Yep.
Let's revise the motion. Can we revise the motion here to, on section B here?
I thought it was all of B.
Okay,
That's what I,
It's fine, yeah.
all of B.
that's why I said
All
B.
of B is 10. The number shall be 10. Okay, good. Single approval not required under Subdivision Control Act, also known as the A&R. Lots granted to an individual property owner who has not already been granted a building permit during the calendar year. So there's your concern right there, right? Canned language from 2002, Dave? You think?
Check.
On section C?
Single A and R, yeah, section 6.1 from that time, single A and R approval not required lots granted to an individual property owner who has not already been granted a building permit during the calendar year.
Okay. Consistent, right?
And that's also consistent, once again, with some of the other samples that we have from some other municipalities.
So anybody that comes in, as you were referring to, can get it, even though the cap has been reached and all that, they have the
No.
right to come in. Well, it doesn't say that they can't. Oh, another, wait a minute, up above.
Yeah.
Yeah, units exempt under B, C, and E below shall nevertheless be counted towards the permit
Right,
total.
so it
Yeah,
does.
so it does, you're right, yeah,
He's got
Yeah.
it covered. Man had it covered.
yeah.
All right.
I just, a developer could come in and use up all those permits.
Yes, that's,
No.
yeah,
There's no, but it is what it is.
you're right, and to me, that's bad.
There's no way, I don't know if there's.
Well,
a way
that's why we have the limitation, the, section C above, 25%.
But if you had 4 developers, they're all gone. And this single person doesn't have a chance.
And we
Well-
then we move that 25% down.
Do,
I just read the document. I don't have a say one way or the other. I just,
jump ahead a little bit, special
Budgeted.
permit, would that fall under that then?
Not by a subdevelopment.
Not a subdivision,
Builder,
no,
but
but
you-
I'm talking about an A and R, if somebody comes in.
Oh, yeah,
and-
yeah.
And they want a building permit, come before the planning board for a special permit.
Yep.
For that particular unit
Yep.
only.
And that's what we talked about at the joint meeting,
Yeah.
so is it covered in your draft, Dave, anywhere?
Yeah,
Wishes of
special,
the board?
special permit is number 6.
Yeah.
That's based upon the Douglas model in particular, and a few other examples that we have from the, from our packet.
All right,
All right, so let's
we'll
go
get
back.
that.
We'll get to it,
that.
right?
Okay, and
All right.
so that would, hopefully, Joe's point.
All right,
All
so
right.
section C, that's from 2002. Okay, D, enlargement, restoration, replacement, or reconstruction of existing dwelling units located on lots as the date of passage of the bylaw, providing that such construction does not result in an increase in the number of dwelling units. This is under exemptions, so fixing up your existing dwelling
Yeah.
it doesn't apply. Canned language from 22,
Not from the town's prior attempt, but it's from several examples from other
so
municipalities.
there's others. Very good. Discussion on that one?
No.
Is that, Would that include duplexes though? Someone wants to tear down their house and put a duplex on it? That's,
Existing dwelling units. You're gonna make it a second house?
you know, I mean, cause it's, even though it's a duplex, it's one building, but two houses, two homes.
Well, if you take down one single family and put up a duplex, both of those units are gonna count. That's gonna be a net of one. Because this only
But
applies,
that's
an
an increase of one.
increase of one.
Yeah.
This only applies providing that such construction does not result in an increase in the number of dwelling units.
There you go.
So if you do a duplex or anything else, those additional units will count.
Okay.
That's why you added it in there. Very, very wise. Okay. We good?
Mm-hmm.
Last on exemption. The last exemption is for any proposed development that would result in new dwelling units located within the zoning district known as the Heights Planned Development District, aka Rutland Heights Hospital.
And I said zoning allows only senior and assisted living up there as far as any residential, but not straight residential is not allowed in that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, we don't need to have that in a bylaw because it's already in the
State.
CMR.
Right.
Yeah, it's-
So. Okay.
so should that be in there or out of there?
Well, you don't want to.
Otherwise, well, my only point is, I know with what I've learned being on the bylaw subcommittee, is that bylaws, unless otherwise specified, it has to be very exact. So like, if I use, for example, to ask for a variance on a piece of property, if it's not written in the bylaw that a variance can be asked, a variance by
Can't be
state law,
granted.
variance cannot be issued. So wording really counts, I believe, on in everything this, because it's, someone's gonna look for that loophole to get through it.
So, Dick, give me the slow wording here on what you would like added to section E of the exemption after Heights HPPD.
I said zoning allows only senior housing and assisted living.
Zoning allows only senior housing. As it pertains to the Heights plan.
That is correct. And if I'm wrong, Mike, I'll check it out tonight and
So you wanna add one sentence after that. Zoning allows only senior housing and assisted living development.
you know.
We add E after
That's what you
Let's
like.
see.
development district period, then, what's this like? What's the
Yes,
proposed
yeah,
language?
on E, section 5 exemptions, E, second sentence. Zoning allows only senior housing and assisted living developments.
Only senior living. And what's the rest of it? And
Assisted living development.
Zoning allows only senior housing and assisted living development, period.
the reason for that, I'm just trying to follow here.
It was voted on for the zoning for the Rutland Heights property.
So the zoning itself is limiting?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
All right.
I think, yeah, fine.
Now I have F.
You put an F in there, did you?
Just
On section 5?
Yeah, let me
All right.
exemption. I put house that has a fire or other damage is exempt.
House that has a 5.
Yeah, if you had
It's
a
an
fire in
exempt.
a house and you had to go get a building permit to redo the house, it should be exempt.
It's not a new construction.
Well, it could be the whole house burns down, but it wouldn't be a new footprint though. So it's,
It's something that I know that we under the planning board had brought up long time ago. Not the planning board, but the
If there's a fire in an existing house,
if you had a fire in a house.
or I would not just any type of destruction. I would put.
Yeah, okay.
Tree,
Tornado,
disaster.
whatever.
natural.
And you go after a building permit, you know,
For
and
a
it
new
is
house.
totaled. You know, you should be allowed to pick up a building permit to do it.
Is there
It
any
can't be
wording
F then.
in any?
Pardon?
That can't be F then.
How would you exempt it?
Well, because it's your exemption shall nevertheless be counted toward the permit total
Oh, yeah,
established in section 3 above.
Well, then,
So you'd have to actually put it separately,
as an exemption not counted.
not counted.
Maybe in A, amend that to part A. Dwelling units to be built under Commonwealth or blah, 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 or
Does it say?
otherwise, would this say
No.
otherwise defined?
No.
Well, it would be its own section, something to the effect of casualty. Structures are subject of casualty shall be allowed to be rebuilt without,
There you go.
I'll craft language to that.
There you go, okay.
Perfect.
So we're talking about a
Yes,
casualty.
sir.
Yes,
Here's the
yes.
word.
Yeah.
We don't want to penalize someone involved in a casualty.
That is
I'll find
correct.
language for that.
Dave's gonna add a section F regarding casualties.
Not
Okay.
F, no, section.
We'll have to
Section.
It's
amend.
gonna renumber, it'll become 6.
No,
Then
I'm gonna add another
Under the
exemption,
exemptions.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna make sure that that does not count toward the total cap.
Okay,
Okay.
So that will not count toward the total cap.
all right.
That'll just be plain that we're protecting anybody involved in that kind of a,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Good call, Dick. Okay, very good. And that'll close out exemptions?
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. All right, getting real close here. Now we talk about the special permits, and you said your inspiration for that was Douglas's.
Yeah, Douglas, I thought did a very good job with that. I think there were some other examples too, but Douglas
All
pretty
right?
much just grabbed it.
Can I just ask a quick question before we move on? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to hold up the process. Is there any reason to have any exemptions for agricultural purposes such as barns or silos or anything?
That's not a dwelling unit.
yeah,
This
yeah.
only applies to dwelling units.
Just dwelling units?
Residential dwelling unit. New residential dwelling unit.
Correct.
Yeah, not agricultural.
Nothing except
So that wouldn't be like a motel or anything like that, because that's commercial.
commercial development,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
okay.
good question though. All right, so special permit section here, the planning board may grant a special permit to allow the issuance of building permits for particular development projects that will result in authorizing construction of a total, a maximum of blank dwelling units above the annual residential developmental or development limit per calendar year. Such special permit shall be granted in accordance with the special permit requirements of the Town of Rutland zoning bylaw as amended. And this came from Douglas. What was their number? Do we know? On the special permit?
They're saying 15.
15, yeah.
And they're, well,
The issue with theirs is that their phase development, strictly speaking, applies to subdivisions. But the special permit has application to this situation, so I don't know what to say about a number.
well, and their max, their number was 15 in Douglas, and they're saying 15 special permits in addition to the 15 building permits.
I suppose, I mean, what they're not doing here, they don't have the same level of exemptions that we've brought in, so I'll leave it to the board.
Was any of this discussed last night at planning?
No,
So this is, I got a
Right.
comment, this is not discussed, this is new territory here.
I don't see how it continues to go on, though, how any type of residential will have a positive impact on any school, facilities, traffic, I don't. I mean, unless we go back to the cost, again, of a house, where a house pays for itself.
Can we stick with the first paragraph here? On the,
Sure.
The
Well,
number of permits for, special permits, is there a cap on the number of special permits? I mean, we didn't discuss it at the thing, and I thought the intent of the joint was that exceptions can be made via a special permit. And I think the one section in there just nails it, it's, I think you had it in here. That the proposed benefits of the development will not outweigh the adverse effects to the community. So, so this is new territory, which would cause it to get bounced back to planning, zoning, whatever. Douglas has a number of 15, which matches. So if we were to mirror them, we would have 30, but
so that'd be 30 that could be put on
Added
top
on.
of, so it could be a total of 60 permits.
That's right. And to me, I wrote a big no next to this thing because this is the first time I read it.
this is all new discussion, and
Yeah.
we didn't talk about this. Is this,
Yeah, well, when I was reading all this over, yeah, the first paragraph states it, the rest of it backs it up. I don't see how it's really backing it up.
I think the discussion of the boards together was that we like the idea of the planning board sitting down and case by case discussing that. And this you got from this paragraph one, Dave, you got from, this wording is from Douglas?
From Douglas.
It's substantially from Douglas. What I've added was language that the proposed benefits not outweigh the adverse effects.
Well, that is what I think is the gist of the special permit that I like to see.
So in making such a determination, the board will consider the ordinary special permit requirements in addition to positive effects with respect to the ones listed, A through
E.
E.
Yeah, that's all. But do we need the first paragraph in there, or is this?
Do we need the first paragraph in here? Well, the first paragraph in here there is a limit set forth in Douglas for the maximum number of permits that could be, maximum number of new dwelling units that could be issued by special permit. So they do
Yeah.
provide for a number.
What does our 2002 say?
2002,
I bet you didn't have it in there.
I don't believe it did, no.
I'd like to cut that paragraph right out of there to keep it consistent with 22.
So just simply the planning board can't grant a special permit.
I think that was the intent of our discussion.
In the way I read that second paragraph is that if we did give a special permit, that the developer will either build a school or other public facilities.
No, which says
If it's a
we'll have to
benefit,
show a positive impact.
Yes.
How are you gonna show a positive impact? I mean, if a family comes, if someone wants to build a new dwelling, they don't have kids, so kind of be like a 55 and up, but they have no intent on having kids. See, it's,
I have an example for you.
okay, yeah, please.
So
have
you have a
an
large
example.
piece of land that might be in chapter 61, maybe that land's gonna come off of 61. Perhaps the town doesn't have the wherewithal to purchase that. What if somebody with whatever way that they are viewing things agrees to put a voluntary APR on a portion of the land and they develop some number of units? But most of the land remains in perpetuity protected as an open space.
and you,
Okay,
and
so-
Well,
I mean-
basically, that's our open space subdivision as it is right now.
But this might be more restrictive than that. I mean, you can try to think of other examples, but there's the benefit of keeping it, maybe they would give some of that land as a recreational facility.
Which,
I mean, you never know. I mean,
yes,
these are-
That's right, yeah,
It
they're
it can, I mean, that'll be brought up at the next selectmen's meeting, might be.
and-
On a particular thing, but anyways, yeah. But, like on traffic, right now, we've had a discussion with one of the builders in town here, and we demanded or wanted a road through the subdivision to a main road, main thoroughfare. And he said, no, you can't do it. Then we wanted him to upgrade the road that gets to the subdivision. And he says, no, I won't. And to me, that's where this would come in.
okay.
Traffic and pedestrian safety, you know, build a new improved road
Yep. Well, that's
and
spot on.
take it, you know, take the burden off the town of Rutland.
Yep.
They're putting a subdivision in, why not let them fix it?
Do we leave it
So
to?
it seems like it's here holding them to ransom, like you're fleecing them.
Yeah, okay, so,
So I don't like that wording.
Do we
I'm
leave it?
opposed to it.
Do we leave it to the discretion of the planning board on a case by case, or do we set a number in paragraph one? My only concern is that none of this was discussed,
yeah.
and here we go throwing a slider in there after I thought, I just don't wanna delay the process or kick it back and forth. I would love to cut that out. It just wasn't discussed.
Cuts the whole subsection 6 out.
No, paragraph one.
Oh, paragraph 1.
That sets a number on the special permits.
Okay.
If you do that, the only thing I'd like to retain is that such special permit shall be granted in accordance with the special permit requirements of the town bylaw as amended. And bring that into the remaining paragraph, just so it's clear that the applicant has to meet the ordinary
Yeah.
requirements for special permit and these additional ones.
Okay. I'm okay with that, yeah.
So,
All right,
unless,
I can reword that accordingly.
I mean, I guess that
I'd,
you'd be concerned about the planning board running rogue or something like that and saying everything's a special
Yeah.
permit. But that's not the content of what we
Yeah.
agreed on
Mm.
in there. This is new territory here. I'd like to cut all that out up until that last paragraph that says such special permit, add that to the second paragraph,
Yeah.
which is all sparkling, right?
So moved. I'll make
Okay.
a motion to
Yeah,
do that.
thanks. Dick,
Second.
okay, discussion? In favor?
So what are you
Aye.
striking?
So on special permit, all, first paragraph, everything up until the last sentence, that sets a limit on the number of special permits that the planning board can give. Motion's been made. Seconded by Mr. Moore.
No,
No,
me.
yeah, reverse that.
Okay. Section 6, first paragraph, to strike the sentences leading up to the last sentence. And,
And the last sentence to be added to the second.
last sentence to be merged into the, second paragraph.
Yep.
I don't like any of this.
Even the next page, recreation facilities, building and recreation.
Well, it just
oh,
kinda sounds like they're,
Well,
well, it's like, we'll let you have it if you do,
well, why are we
Yes.
cutting back? Because we haven't got the money for doing this stuff.
I
So
understand.
we're now saying, hey, if you do want to do something, this is what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to either build something, have rec fields or open space or something like that, and you know,
Let me just look here. So Doug, you say the inspiration for this second paragraph on special permit is Douglas.
right, 4.2.4.
Hey, that's what they got. This is coming from Douglas's. So, and we talked about that.
We talked about adding a special permit
We liked it.
provision, yeah.
How would he, put a percentage on it?
On section E, the last section.
No, on section, just, I dropped the whole thing and just put, planning board may grant a special permit, provided they believe it's a benefit to the town, not to exceed 5% of the total or 10% of the total, and that's it.
Well, I think the issue there is you have to have some criteria by which to judge the proposal. So we're setting a high standard for the special permit that can be granted here. It's not just the ordinary findings of fact for special permit, it's more, because there's a high standard to be placed on allowing some deviation over the maximum cap. So that's why it's important to have the criteria as which to test it against.
And I would just use open space, or just use,
Well, we have already open space in our subdivisions.
does that work though? Have you been
Oh,
able-
yeah. But there's a conservation restriction on that they put on, and to me, that limits, the town doesn't get a chance to use it per se. Well, we got a couple of them in town here that got screwed up, so the town may be in ownership in a
Alright.
broad way.
So
But-
this is verbatim from Douglas, which we agreed we liked. Stick to the script,
okay,
right?
No, I just didn't know how to benchmark it. You know, it's just,
Stay on the road.
I'm trying to stay on the road. I
Stay on the road.
Table 6.
We're speaking for our respective boards too, you know, and that's what was going, so. Okay, and then on the last section, E, reduction in otherwise allowable residential density. And this is Douglas wording,
I believe so.
and what they said was 25%. So, particular consideration shall be given to special permit applications that demonstrate a reduction in allowable density of blank percent or more, and then the Douglas, I believe it said 25, I recall. Yeah, 25%. I guess I don't understand this anyways, it's a reduction. What do you mean by residential density, Dave?
For example, if you have a requirement, a minimum area requirement, say 30,000 square feet. You can put one house on a 30,000 square foot lot. If someone came up with a multi-structure multi-dwelling unit proposal, and it provided, say, 5 dwelling units for 30,000 square feet, and you thought there was a community benefit by having that number of units because of other findings of fact above that would also be made, then you would give preference to that type of project. So you're not just reading that requirement by itself, you're reading it possibly in conjunction with the other findings above. Would such a project have benefits to traffic and pedestrian safety? It was right next to downtown, it might have that benefit. If you want people to, if you want to encourage people to walk, if it's near walking trails, for example, you know, so you'd be looking to that in context. So this just wouldn't be the only finding that would have to be made, but they would get some preference if they had that kind of a project.
By the planning.
Correct, as part of its,
All right. Douglas says 25%. Your thoughts, Dave? 25, consistent with Douglas?
I could say that I have not seen this provision elsewhere. Douglas seems to have thought this through,
Right.
where they want to, on the one hand, can't have the cap, but on the other hand, allow for flexibility to go greater than it. Whatever the board would think would be common sense, I would have to defer.
Seems reasonable.
25% of 30 is, please, I don't want
8?
Yeah.
to, so eight more. Okay. I'm okay with 8.
So 25% because it's consistent with the Douglas. Okay. It's reasonable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Motion on a set a number of 25%. Section E, reduction in otherwise allowable residential density.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. 2 more, 3 more. 3 more. Zoning change protection, section 7. Our source, Dave?
That's standard language that carries through from Cape Cod to the other examples. It's it does what it states that it's doing.
Great.
It's protecting lots.
Where the residential rate limitation would cause a particular lot to lose rights vested in Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, the protections granted therein shall be extended until the building permit is granted. So it's basically saying that if you've got a permit, you're protected. Is that what this says?
Well, not necessarily.
What
no.
this is saying is that this bylaw will not nullify non-conforming protections to lots because of a limit on the number of dwelling units. This is a general protection for non-conforming lots, and that this bylaw would not take those zoning protections away from a particular situation.
Canned language from the Cape and the other ones.
It is.
Okay with me then.
I'll leave it.
Okay,
Cape Cod
okay,
Commission.
John,
Okay, yes?
Yeah.
good.
Good.
Number 8, the term of the bylaw. This is our sunset clause. Primary inspiration for our sunset?
I put down 2029.
No, the
What?
source. The
Oh,
source.
source.
Well, the
Yeah.
board requested it during its joint deliberations, and it also seems to be standard in other documents, and also at the recommendation of
The chair.
CMRPC.
Yeah, he recommended.
So this
that.
is your wording. That's my point. Yeah.
This is my wording, but
The source is
it's,
Dave. All right, Dave George.
well, it's based upon the examples
No, Ron, really was.
and Ron's sentiment that there should be
Yeah,
a sunset
there should be a
clause. Yeah.
sunset, because otherwise it leaves you open to challenge.
Correct.
Yeah,
Well, that we get. I'm
challenge.
just talking about
Yeah.
the drafting of the wording here. That's trying to stay on the road, boys. Okay. All right. So this is our.
Or in the pipe.
Yeah. So this is uncharted a little bit. It's the sunset in there. It's not something that we see in the 22, and I don't think did Douglas have a sunset? Did not. Okay, so this is kind of new territory. The bylaw shall be effective Now, did you guys discuss this last night?
No.
The sunset years?
No.
Okay, so it's, as we discussed, it's 5 or 10. Ron was recommending 5 to 7. The bylaw shall be effective through May 11th, and then whatever we suggest to move forward. The bylaw may be extended for up to blank years to achieve its purpose without lapse of its provisions, conditions, and limitations by majority vote of a town meeting prior to May 11th blank. So, thoughts on the sunset?
Well, that's what I
5,
thought.
7, 10.
I thought about 10, that's why I say 2029.
There you
Yeah,
go.
'cause I
That's-
don't know if 5 years would really show anything. You'd have to go
10
longer.
years. 10 years. I like 10.
10,
So move.
And so moved,
second.
Section 8.
and the bylaw may be extended
10-year
for
sunset.
up to 5 years. I had down. In case it was working good or whatever, at least you got it another 5 years by vote.
So it goes through 20. You got in this, Dave? So it's going to be 10 years, so through May 11th, 2029. Bylaw may be extended for up to how many years?
5.
I like it. 5 years. To achieve its purpose without lapse of its provisions, conditions, and limitations by majority vote prior to May 11th,
2029.
2029. 5 years.
Got it.
I like it. Issues?
Nope.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
On Moore, 5 years. Second, Williams, on 5-year extension. Okay, you got that? That's a motion. Carried. All in favor, unanimous.
Aye.
Aye.
Yep. And last section, the severability.
Yep.
If any provision of the bylaw, this bylaw is held invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, the remainder of the bylaw shall not be affected thereby.
Correct.
The invalidity of any section or sections or parts of any section or sections of this bylaw shall not affect the validity of the remainder of the Town of Rutland zoning bylaw. The source?
This is standard language. Severability clauses appear consistently in zoning bylaws. Cape Cod, prior version.
Like it.
Yep.
Any concerns?
No, because the
Dave.
Attorney General likes it.
Nice job. The only thing that I put in there is the that Mendon section of the I think it's added. I think it's in there in your section. So
Does anybody know what the cost for a building permit is?
Nope.
What the fee is?
It all depends on
Depends on the type.
cost of the building.
Cost, okay. It's a percentage of
I
total
believe,
cost of
something like
construction.
that, yeah.
Okay,
6.25 on 1,000.
okay.
$6.25 on $1,000 valuation, total cost of the project.
very good. All right. So Dave, moving forward, you're gonna take all these
Changes?
numbers.
Yep.
That we did. I'll do the minutes. But I think we're all
Excuse me.
clear on the numbers that were motioned and voted on.
What I'll do
Moving
is
forward.
circulate these tomorrow or Friday to this group, just for one more check, and then we'll schedule our meeting with the bylaw subcommittee with this version.
Okay.
After you folks take one look at it, just to make sure we have,
Uh,
that I've incorporated all these changes here.
Okay, so when's our next meeting?
Well, we did say that the planning board is April 1st.
I do remember, sorry about that. The, Ron did ask or somebody asked about a Tuesday, but, overall Tuesdays are not a good day for me. That I have planning board on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and the other Tuesday I have conservation commission.
Stick with the Wednesday.
Wednesday's fine.
But from here, once it's okayed, it goes to the planning board itself on April 1st. And then the 9th is a planning board meeting, and with the Board of Selectmen to attend, and then the public hearing will be April 23rd. So,
Between the 9th and the 23rd.
between the first and the 9th, this thing is gonna be written. It's gonna be all set
Well, yeah, I mean,
by the planning board subcommittee.
Correct.
You'll have that done tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just a
Hopefully.
couple of jostling, right? And then
But then you need Norm Anderson to read it.
Yep.
Because
that's why I wanted to stay online with that.
because
2002.
you'll be surprised what that gentleman can find.
So April, the 9th is the next planning board meeting.
So you want to meet before or after
The planning board is supposed to meet at the first
On the Monday?
on the Monday, but that is a Monday, correct?
that's this
Okay.
Monday. That's this Monday.
correct.
Okay, I didn't have that on my calendar. Thank you
And,
for
uh,
I
showing me.
haven't
wanna-
sent it out yet, but we discussed it last night.
Yep.
Is there any benefit to meet the day before the public hearing on the 10th by the steering committee? We would have feedback.
Well, that's when the board of selectmen and the planning board is supposed to have
The
a joint
9th.
the 9th, the day before the 10th.
Actually, the 9th is not a hearing. The 9th would be a meeting
Oh,
of the bylaw subcommittee to review this if they need to,
Right.
or to discuss it further if folks are here.
With the
But the actual
Board of
hearing is,
Selectmen.
yeah,
And then the public hearing will be the 11th.
23rd.
23rd.
Oh, okay.
So the 9th,
This meeting
the
too.
bylaw subcommittee is gonna meet, like, what, 5:30, like they usually have done before planning board? Cause there's different members that are on the bylaw subcommittee than,
I talked to the chair about that today. His recommendation is to have a joint meeting of the bylaw subcommittee and the planning board to
Okay.
do both of those
combined.
combined,
Yeah.
then do the usual time for the planning board.
Can we meet in 2 weeks or consistently? Because we're getting real hot here.
Yeah.
Keep it every 2 weeks, which would be April 10th,
10th.
April 10th.
6:30. Dave, can you make the recommendation for the room here in the library, or you want me to?
I can do it.
Since you'll be there tomorrow? Okay.
Actually, Mike's out, but I'll get to him by email.
Or you send it to Laura?
She's been out of the office.
Oh,
I'll make a note of it. I'll get to Mike as soon as possible.
okay. So the next meeting of the steering committee, Wednesday, April 10th, 6:30, here at the library, unless we get squeezed out. And will you let Ron know?
Oh, well.
Yeah. Okay. Any other business that's not previously anticipated? Got a lot done.
Yep.
Pretty impressed there, gentlemen. Thank you for making it so smooth. Anything else? Any unfinished business? Nothing? Nothing? Cable committee, anything? No? You guys are good? All right.
Move
Uh,
to adjourn.
Move to adjourn
Second.
at 8:12. All in discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. We are adjourned 8:12. Thank you,
That's
everybody.
job, guys.
We can see.